Still started. There we go.
All right, we're live. Hi, this is Betsy Walker. We're here in Hangouts, and this is a first. I'd like to introduce you to Adam Ringham.
Hi guys, nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. Glad I can be here too.
This is so exciting. Thank you, Adam, for taking the time to do this with me. I'm so excited to share this with my viewers and my network, and I hope that you'll share it with yours as well, and we can get the word out about essential oils and how wonderful they are.
It sounds like a good plan to me, and hopefully, and I'm ready for it.
Great. Well, let's just get into it right away because we have a lot to share, and I know you're just roaring to go. So, can you just give us a little bit of intro about you and your background so people can understand where you're coming from?
All right. Yeah, I've got an interesting backstory that I just in college used to be all in shape, big buff guy, and then kind of time went on and got married, and the beer and the pizza and the hot wings just kind of took over. So I went from being a real in shape guy, real gym ready, I guess is a good way to say it, and I got up to I don't know for sure if it was the actual weight I got to because I stopped looking at the scale around 285, but I ballooned up to about the 300-pound mark. And so it was doing things not really very correctly for a while. And my wife ended up getting the essential oils. And for the first year, I wanted nothing to do with them. The smell of peace and calming would literally actually make me almost throw up to where I'd have to leave the room. So I was the most anti-MLM, anti-Young Living, or any essential oil person you had ever met on the planet. And then finally, after about a year, I'm like, all right, I'm going to give some of this stuff a try. Be like, you know what, some different issues I'd like to work on. So I'm like, all right, well, this stuff can't be very strong. So I'm going to take like 20 drops of lavender one day to see if it calms me down. Yeah, it did. A lot. And so I found out that, yeah, it turns out one drop actually is a whole lot. So, and I had to retest the experiment the next day to be like, all right, well, was it just a fluke? So I gave it another shot again. And sure enough, it worked again that day. So I kind of used to be working at, I guess we can quote unquote call it a health food store. It was anything but really. That it was people would come in and we'd give them a bunch of samples, but like, hey, here's some pre-workout stuff and here's some weight loss stuff you can use. And well, the thing is, it does work, but it works real temporarily and with unfortunately, usually a horrible price. So it was after about a week's using worth of some samples or something, good luck quitting. It was one of those type of deals that it was more so much of it is just forcing the body that you're stimulant addicted now. It's a diuretic. Yeah, you peed out some water weight and lost water weight on the scale, but it's not really losing weight. The second you quit, you're going to put it right back on. And now guess what? You're addicted to stimulants. So after a while, I didn't want anything to do with that anymore. I'm like, all right, there's got to be a better way. And I had just recently started looking into, okay, maybe I'll give these oils a shot. Maybe I'll give them a try. And as time went on, I just started using them more and more. It became just an absolute passion to be like, oh my gosh, I can use this stuff instead. You've got to be kidding me. Because I was, all my bodybuilder friends that it's always the latest and greatest. What's the new supplement you could use? What's so excellent? What's this new product? What's Ronnie Coleman or anybody else endorsing? And who's got the pretty advertisements? And just redone the same thing 1,000 times or made more stimulants that I'm like, how has nobody ever looked at this stuff before? Like there really isn't any information out there at all that it can even do anything. So over the course of the next couple of years, it became just an absolute passion to be like, all right, what's going on with these? How do they work? What do they do? And how do I really use them? And so it became a multi-year process of me just every single day being like, I have got to find out how these things work because they are working amazingly. And so that's kind of just been the process that I've been on. And finally, after a while, it was like, I really should just write a book about this because there just really isn't any great information on how exactly these things work with exercise. There is the Essential Oil Desk Reference and a whole lot of other great resources. Problem is, there's like 30 different oils in there that it's like, well, this one can help. And this one can help, but it's like, yeah, well, how though? So it became kind of one of those things for me. I wanted to know what I was doing and what I was using, and how could I share it with other people to be like, hey, instead of trying all these other options, take a look into this, because you're not forcing the body, you're supporting it to do the different things that it can. So it was something that I had written off completely, being like, I am not putting these hippie snake oils anywhere near me. And I kind of learned a hard lesson of, oh my gosh, was I completely wrong. And so that was just sort of a little background, a little history on me, on what I used to do, that it was, I dropped into a lot of very unhealthy lifestyle choices. And through the course of it, I discovered a whole lot of ways to make much better choices that I just wanted to share with other people. Be like, hey, maybe I can save you some of the having to stare at a computer screen and a whole bunch of medical studies and stuff all day long for years. And so you can actually get something done instead of sitting behind the computer. And so when your wife comes home, be like, Carrie, guess what I learned today? She's like, I don't care. Did you do the dishes? No. Anyway, that's kind of the process of what went on, and what went on with it. That I like to kind of share it for, like, there's a lot of guys out there that think it's absolutely ridiculous. I used to totally agree with you. Be like, no, get them away from me. I don't even know what you're doing or why you're in this stuff. I was there worse than anybody else. I was furious that my wife had them, because I hated peace and quiet. I hated the smell so bad, I wanted to throw up. And so when you're wanting to choke and throw up, it's kind of like, what are you doing and what are you in, you stupid hippie? Be like, this is ridiculous. Don't even bring me. Boy, was I wrong. So anyway, that's kind of the background and the history of where it was and kind of how I got started into it. That I just wanted to find a little bit different way.
Well, that's awesome. It's so great to know, that you don't have to love them in the beginning. You just got to try them, right?
Yeah, just give it a fair shot.
Right. Well, I really enjoyed reading your book. It was really great to have the different levels. You set out different levels and how you should start using the oils, so that it's a process. And I noticed that, it was kind of a common theme is about keeping a journal. So can you tell me how keeping a journal helped you to go about, learning about which oils worked for you, and then how is that going to help somebody to get to the next level if they're keeping a journal?
Well, keeping a journal, number one of the things it can do is help keep you accountable, because I had a really good tendency to kind of fool myself into, oh yeah, I did all this stuff, and then when I kind of started writing it down, it's like, oh, well, maybe I really didn't do that stuff, and I just convinced myself that I did. And so as I look back too, it helped really give me insights to be like, well, what was working and what wasn't working. And so, because anytime something doesn't work, that's just as important as if it does. To be like, oh, okay, well, this didn't work. Well, okay, maybe why not? Maybe I didn't need it. Maybe I used it wrong. Maybe I ate wrong that day or didn't try it for long enough. So that way you can kind of chronicle back, look at the different things and be like, all right, which ones do I like? How did I feel that day? And then, kind of everybody, we get busy. So looking back a month, it's like, well, all right, well, what was I doing a month ago? If you don't write it down, it's really hard to remember and be, okay, well, what was I thinking at the time? What was I feeling? What did I feel like physically, not just mentally? And so and then looking back too, it's kind of fun to look back at some of your thoughts over the course of a month, 6 months, a year, to be like, oh my gosh, that's right. That's what I was thinking about at that time. And that's kind of the process that led me here, because sort of like, none of us, we didn't get out of shape overnight. It took me years. I didn't put on 300 pounds instantly like I got stung by a hive of bees, although that's what it looked like. It's more so it happens over a period of time. And so if you keep a journal, you don't even have to keep track of what you eat. Just keep a journal of, all right, here's what I did today, and here's what I think happened. Here's what I think I felt. So having a journal, it helps keep you accountable. It helps you really be honest with yourself. What did I do? What didn't I do? What did work? What didn't work? Because there's a lot. Health is a real complex subject. Even just how you feel is a pretty complex thing of what'd you eat? What'd you do? What were you thinking about? What'd you do last night? What'd you do yesterday? What'd you do last week? It's a lot of things to keep track of. So if you've got a journal and you focus on it and actually write it down, it's much easier to chronicle, okay, what's going on? Here's the ones I liked. Here's the ones I didn't. And then it helps you figure out, well, maybe these are the ones that I need more so than these other ones, because these other ones didn't seem to help, but this one really did. Then you can go back and chronicle, okay, why do I think it helped? What's some of the reasons it maybe did? What's the body systems it's supporting? You can kind of look back and chronicle too, to be like, all right, which ones really helped over a period of time, and now maybe I don't need those so much. This body system is working a little bit better. Maybe it's time to move to a new one or try different or more or less of a different one.
Right. Yeah.
Keeping the journal is just, it's extremely helpful to be able to do, not only mentally, but physically as well. To just be like, okay, here it is for me. This is my journey and my adventure that I started, of what I started doing, and here's how it either did work or didn't work.
Right, right. Well, that's awesome. I'm going to jump into a question about an oil that you talk a lot about in your book, even starting your routine, and that is Valor. And we know right now that Valor is not really available to us. So first of all, could you just quickly explain what Valor does? And I thought that was very interesting when we had our pre-interview and you talked about how it, it works in the body, and then also what you would suggest in terms of what to use instead until we can get Valor again.
Well, so far, and I haven't tried it yet, what Valor does is there's two different ways to increase blood flow. Well, there's actually more than two, but we'll simplify it down. That one, you can either have your blood vessels and arteries open up more, and by doing that, you're going to get more blood flow to an area, because naturally it's like the roads are getting bigger when you increase the actual size of your blood vessels or arteries. The other thing you can do is you can improve the way blood flows past itself. Something like soy protein has a thing called, hopefully I get the name right, hemagglutinin, which cause red blood cells to clump together. Well, now as they clump together and travel in packets, it's kind of like a traffic jam. All these blood cells kind of clump up, and so now you're missing different parts of the blood cells that you could have had either oxygen or nutrients or different things attached to, or that couldn't before, or couldn't because they're all traffic jammed up. So you're missing being able to use part of your blood. So blood flow is not just how well and how big are your arteries open and flowing, it's how well do these blood cells move past each other. And so I guess a word for it you could use is almost viscosity. If there's men out there to be like, all right, well, how thick is my oil that I'm trying to move through the engine of my car? As the car heats up, the oil gets a little thinner, can move around. Valor isn't exactly a blood thinner, but it just helps red blood cells flow past each other more smoothly, so it can work more efficiently and support the circulatory system in one of the ways. Some of the replacements I've used, there is the Valor 2 that's out. I fortunately stocked up on my Valor through a couple other people. I maybe had them order me a Valor on their account and get it to me. So I haven't had to use Valor 2 yet, so I can't personally attest to say, oh yeah, you could use Valor 2. Gary seems to know his stuff pretty well, so I trust him a bit on Valor 2. Probably works a lot in the same way. The other ones, I believe there's Aroma Life is another one for circulation. I won't focus on that one so much as Highest Potential, especially for men, because it doesn't really smell as flowery as Valor does. Some people like to think Valor smells too flowery. I think it smells amazing. So I haven't met a whole lot of people that don't like the smell of Valor, but if you're a guy or anybody else that's just kind of worried about smelling, like you think Valor makes you a little uncomfortable, try Highest Potential. It's just Highest Potential is a lot more expensive. So if you can use Valor or Valor 2, use that one instead. But if you want a replacement out there, Highest Potential. I've really become a big fan of that one lately. I even, I'll take Highest Potential, and I'm wearing a hat. I'm sorry about that, but I like to put the Highest Potential. I put a little bit on my thumb, put the top over the bottle. I know you're not supposed to, but I just put it underneath the brim of my hat, so all day long I'm smelling the different oil to put on, because it's an awesome reminder and mood improver. I find myself every couple times an hour being like, what is this? Oh, that's right, I put Highest Potential on my hat. It smells awesome. So those are the ones I kind of recommend, and that's a little bit of the difference. Highest Potential seems to work in pretty much the same way as Valor, that it just helps red blood cells flow past each other better. So it's like helping coordinate traffic better on a highway. So if you don't have all the cars or red blood cells clumping up together, traffic flows more smoothly past each other, and it's more efficient and just improves the efficiency and supports the circulation system.
Great. Thank you for those tips. I like the idea of putting it on the brim of your hat. That's awesome. I also had a suggestion at a class last night for guys, if they have a mustache, they can put a little bit of the oil on the little bit of the hair of their mustache, and they'll smell it for a long time. So there's lots of little tricks.
And my facial hair grows in all patchy and weird.
Right, right.
So terrible with a mustache and a beard.
So quickly, you're a manly guy. What would you say to other men out there that are kind of worried about, smelling like something in terms of putting oils on themselves?
I like to say, dude, screw it, own it. If you're like, if you're a manly man, you smell like flowers, approve it. Be like, come on, what do you care what the other guy thinks? I actually like to joke about it with people and be like, hey, come on over, man. We'll get oiled up before our workout. And so it's just like, yo, screw it. I'm just gonna make it hilarious instead to be like, do I smell like flowers? You're dang right I do. However, if there is any guys that are out there to worry about smelling like something, we can take one of my favorite oils. Probably my second favorite oil is jasmine. And jasmine, there is, you can type in Google, Allure magazine, jasmine White Sox. The Chicago White Sox would have their players put jasmine oil on a wristband before games, and they measured that their errors went down, their batting averages went up. Like a lot of scores were improving on these players when they were wearing jasmine wristbands. So it's like, well, hey, you know, if the White Sox, if they're not too afraid to put on some jasmine and smell like flowers and take a look at kind of what's going on, it's like, you really, what do you care what other people think too, by the way? Be like, hey, you know what, fine, you laugh at me, but you wait and see what happens. Be like, you might find something that maybe it's not jasmine, because that is a really flowery oil, but I personally don't care. I think it's awesome. Be like, heck yeah, I'm gonna smell like flowers everywhere I go. Be like, it puts me in that great mood. Plus, I've done some pretty interesting research on it that it's like, well, I know what it's doing. So, and I have had, as strange as it sounds, I'll put jasmine on, and a couple of times I'll go work out. I've had a few girls stop and be like, is that you that smells like that? I'm like, yeah.
Awesome. And we also have Shutron out there for guys. And I actually have guys in my business that they say they go to the office with Shutron on, and everybody's loving the smell of it. So I think we're more self-confident or self-conscious of our own, you know, what we smell like or whatever. And then when we actually go out there, people actually like it. And when you realize that you're, you know, you're putting something out there that actually helps other people, they smell it on you. That's a big deal, right?
Yeah, the Shutron, I love the Shutron. I put it on, and we were out taking my newborn kid for a walk, and my wife was a little bit behind me when we cross roads or whatever, and she's like, you smell really good. And as Gary would say, he takes no responsibility for an increase in family size after wearing it. But we put it that way. Shutron is a really cool oil blend that I did update the book to put, I think, a little bit more emphasis on Shutron. Be like, man, certainly looking at it, because it doesn't really smell real flowery, and it's very interesting that when you get it, the scent changes completely over the course of a couple of minutes. So like when you put it on at first, it's going to smell like one thing, but then as, I guess, your body adapts to it, or your frequency changes, we could use that term even, it smells completely different. That my wife even noticed. She's like, it didn't smell like that on you yesterday. I'm like, I guess now that you mention it, no, it didn't smell like that on me yesterday. So yeah, Shutron, awesome. Definitely an excellent one to look into.
Cool. Well, we got to get moving on. I really enjoyed when we talked before about what you talked about coffee and what it does in comparison to our Ningxia Red and Nitro, which for all of you out there that don't know what Ningxia Red and Nitro are, they're amazing drinks, and they actually have essential oils in them. So Adam, I'll let you go ahead and talk about coffee and you know, how it compares to those two supplements.
Well, the coffee, I mean, a little bit moderation, not a bad thing. So it's not like we have to say never drink coffee. It's not quite that far. But caffeine, unbeknownst to a whole lot of people, isn't technically a stimulant. What it does is it kind of cuts the brakes on your body systems that produce neurotransmitters. So what ends up happening, your body produces neurotransmitters, communication molecules in the brain and the whole rest of the body. Well, caffeine kind of puts the brakes on your body of when it says, hey, we've got enough of them. Stop making so many. So caffeine occupies a receptor site without activating it. So your body keeps making more and more neurotransmitters. Yeah, it excites you up and yeah, it gets you going, but that comes at a cost. Eventually your body runs out of neurotransmitters. We can call it a caffeine crash. And so you're kind of forcing the body into a state it wouldn't normally be into. So you're kind of missing the whole point of what you're trying to do. Yeah, you're forcing the body, but you're not really giving it the tools to do anything. And then many times too, coffee, very acidic, so it's dropping your body pH, and body pH is a whole other topic. But definitely suggest people research into it, or look in the book and mention like that I've got with all the different benefits of managing your body pH. And many coffees too, especially non-organic, are very toxic and heavy metal cadmium. It's just what coffee does. It's a plant, it's a thing, and that can get kind of hard on the kidneys, the thyroid. It also stresses the body out a lot. So now caffeine, diuretic, you're peeing water out, so you're stressing the body out. Now you've cut the brakes on your neurotransmission systems. You keep making those neurotransmitters. Well, that comes at a cost. So better option instead. I'll start with the Ninja Nitro because that one is kind of like a Ninja Red on steroids. It's got a black pepper that sort of mimics a, it's very supportive of the adrenals and the thyroids, along with the spearmint, very supportive. Black pepper, awesome in the way, helping the way your body handles and makes cortisol. It's also got potassium iodide in it, awesome for supporting the thyroid. So what it's doing instead is approaching a whole multitude of body systems and giving those all support, kind of like playing a musical symphony. It's saying, hey, we're going to play a whole blend of music in the body that we're going to support this body system and this one and this one and this one all at the same time, instead of just saying, hey, let's force the body to do it. So a whole lot of different benefits. It's got the B vitamins in there that are wonderfully absorbed and used by the human body, because a synthetic and a natural vitamin are never going to be the same. As much as we would love to say they are, a synthetic B12 does not match an actual natural B12. So getting these special B vitamins out of the Ninja Wolf berries, it also comes with fibers that every B vitamin is made in your intestinal tract, basically your intestinal floor. That's where all your B vitamins are made and absorbed by the bacteria there. And so by providing these different fibers that the wolfberries do, it helps support the digestion further, so you can get the B vitamins out, so you can make the energy you need on your own. And it also comes with other, the term you've mentioned before, cognitive fitness. Is half the thing is, not only do I have to be physically energetic enough to be able to go, you don't want to hit the gym or anything, you've got to mentally be able to. So Gary's also included other things that are great for the brain support in there, so you have not only the physical but the mental energy to go work out. So if you're going to do a pre-workout supplement, especially for men, if you want to try it instead of a Red Bull or a Rockstar, all these energy drinks, definitely look into the Ninja Nitro. And the Ninja Red, just a little bit more affordable. It's not worse or better than Ninja Nitro, it's just different. And so the Ninja Red, that's a lot like the Nitro, it just doesn't have quite as many different oils in it. It's more for an everyday support instead of, okay, hey, I need a big boost of energy, kind of like I wanted to take a 5-hour energy or a Red Bull. That's where the Nitro is there. The Ninja Red is a daily support, that a little bit more cost effective too, because it not only helps manage the body pH, it's got the essential oils in there that help you absorb the nutrients better, because it doesn't matter how many nutrients you take in a day. If you, number one, can't absorb them into the body, period, and then two, get them into the cells, they're not doing you near as much good. And that's why the Ninja Red is kind of formulated that way. That's like, hey, if we're going to do it, let's make sure they not only get into the body, but let's help them get into the cells better too. So then you're supporting the body. Your body can do a whole lot more. I think you got a friend doesn't want to do something. Instead of making them do it and forcing them to do it, if you can instead get them pumped up and be like, hey, let's do this type of deal. It's kind of what Ninja Red does to the body, and be like, hey, let's do this sort of deal. Let's not force any of these body systems and stress them out. Let's support them so they can naturally do what it does best, and that's go do what the human body does. And so there's kind of the difference in taking a coffee versus a Ninja Red. That Ninja Red, great for supporting metabolism, just a whole skew of different body systems. And I tell you what, personally, I thought the stuff was ridiculous. I'm like, don't give me this berry juice crap. I don't want any of that stuff. Well, then I tried it, and I used it consistently for a while. Now me and my wife like fight over who gets to rinse out the bottle and be like, oh, it's my turn to rinse out the bottle, Carrie, when it's empty. So that's a little bit of the differences between the Ninja Red and a coffee and what they're doing in terms of supporting the body.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I love that product as well. And I always rinse out the bottle and drink the water from it as well. So that's interesting. You do that as well.
We find it.
All right. So I got an interesting question for you. What do you do when you've had a night out or you've eaten something bad, and how do you get back on track?
I guess one of the first things too is we could do insert mention of, it's not in the book, but mention forgiveness oil. Be like, you know what, we're all human. We've got lives that we live. So don't beat yourself up over it too bad. It's going to happen. It's back to life, not a big deal. So what I like to do is definitely drink lots of water, and definitely the citrus oils and the Ninja Red are my favorite ones to do so. It's like, all right, well, I went out and I, had my night out, maybe ate something I shouldn't have had it. Maybe you have a couple of beers with the friends or something. The next morning, well, Ninja Red is great for the all over body support for the energy, the digestion. Then you're getting the citrus oils in the actual Ninja itself. So that's why it's already one of my favorites to take that one. And it's just forgiving yourself, get over it, and drink lots of water. because all of these toxins, like a lot of people talk about detoxifying, okay, this got to do that. Well, it takes time. These toxins don't just magically disappear from the body. So expect it to take a little bit. It'll take a little bit of your day, and it's not the end of the world. So just drink a lot of water, definitely the citrus oils, and then the Ninja Red. Extra probiotics never hurt either. That it's like, all right, well, I had a whole bunch of wheat bread or whatever the breadsticks were. Those are terrible on the digestion, unfortunately. I know I've been there. So probiotics are another great way to help support it too. That just take a look, okay, what did I do? And what's probably the best way to undo it? Usually it's citrus oils and Ninja Red and lots of water.
Right. Well, that leads into my next question, and that's you know, with regards to weight loss and detoxing, what's your opinion of our two methods that we have out there in terms of supporting health and getting the chemicals out of your body and promoting healthy weight? So we're talking about using the, you know, the rubbing the citrus fresh and the ledum on, and then taking the grapefruit and that kind of thing.
A lot of times, Dr. Mercola has some wonderful articles on it too. A lot of times your fat tissue, you know, everybody looks at it as such a bad thing. Well, half the time this fat tissue is saving your life, because you take in enough different things that your body can't eliminate out that aren't good for you. It's got to put it somewhere. So a lot of times it gets stored in extra adipose tissue, because that's the tissue your body cares the least about. It's real easy for your body to make new fat tissue. It's not real easy to make a whole lot of its other tissues. So a lot of times these fat areas get turned into little storage tanks of toxins that are literally many times saving your life. So when you're doing the topical thing, that's a wonderful addition. So it's, the thing is to remember though, you got to support both sides of the equation. That, hey, Kay, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put the citrus oils in my water or whatever else you're going to do. That's very great. And it supports and kind of hits the whole body system all at once. And the topically is very great too, because you can topically approach a problem area of the body, because all of the oils are transdermal. They work right through the skin. So when you put it on that area, it's going to target the most. But the only thing to remember is just, hey, you know, it's okay to do that. That's not a bad thing. But just don't do only that, because then you're only supporting this part of the body, not the whole rest of where it's got to go. Because you put your ledum and your citrus fresh topically on one area, it's still got to make its way through the whole body and eventually get out. So supporting the whole rest of the body at the same time is also another good idea. And that's where the drinking water comes in. Drink a lot of water. I like to say, as a rule of thumb, for every drop of oil you take, try to drink at least 8 ounces of water. I go through like 3 gallons of water a day because I'm weird, but I just enjoy doing it because I take a lot of different oils. And so just drinking more water, number one, too, is going to help de-stress your body. When you're dehydrated, you're stressed out. So if you put a drop of oil on topically on your skin, make sure to drink an 8-ounce glass of water, which really, if you can't drink water and you can't remember to do that, you're probably not very serious about actually doing anything with your weight loss, because it's the simplest and cheapest thing you can do. Drink more water. And so the ledum, also the citrus oil, is great at helping metabolize and pull out the toxins, but blood is only half the equation. You've also got the lymph system. You've got 3 times more lymph in your body than you do blood. So this blood brings nutrients to the body and delivers it. The lymph system carries everything else away. So lemongrass and ledum, awesome for supporting. I mean, I talk about it in the book. Grapefruit, hey, great for increasing metabolism and doing this stuff, but guess what? Your lymph system many times really needs the support to help clear these things as well. So that's why I like to talk about supporting the whole body systems and really delving into these things. Not just, okay, I took a whole bunch of grapefruit and ledum, why isn't it doing anything? We'll try to learn what they do and why they're for. That's kind of why I put the book out, was to be like, here's what they're doing, and here's how they're interrelated. Remember, the whole human body, there is no separate part than the whole rest of the human body. Everything is connected. And so you can only support one so far, kind of like inflating tires on a car or a vehicle. And so you got 4 flat tires. Well, just continually inflating one tire really, really hard, eventually, yeah, hey, it's going to help as it reinflates. That's great. But if all you're doing is overinflating one car tire, your car's still not going to do very well. So you want to support the whole sets of system. That's why the ledum goes with the citrus fresh. The citrus fresh has a whole different mixture of oils in it that support numerous body systems. So that's why I just like to say, really, if you're going to do it, really look into it. Learn it for yourself and find out, okay, what's going on here? That's where the journal comes in that I'd mentioned. Be like, oh, citrus fresh is for all of these different things. Well, how further could I support the body system instead of just taking more citrus fresh or just rubbing more ledum on one area of the body?
That's awesome. Thank you. I totally agree with that. And all the research that I did on the weight loss really learned that you have to have your fiber and you have to have your B vitamins and you have to do the other things. So I think that's awesome. And then I have another really cool question, I think. And that has to do with, different kinds of protein powders out there. I know a lot of people trying to build their body or whatever, taking protein. And you have some really interesting things to say about the different proteins and what to avoid in some of the protein powders and what you like. So could you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, while working at all these different nutrition stores, I got a lot of time to sit there and just read the back of the label. Because there'd be days we'd have one person come into the store on a 12-hour day. So it was like, I got to occupy my time with something. So I just sat there and looked at the back of the label. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go through and Google every single ingredient and track it as far as I can just to be like, what is this? Problem is, though, many of these proteins and stuff comes from milks that are, cows fed GMO corn. You got the glyphosate issues, and you got the RGBH and the RBSTs. Well, now what you're doing with these proteins, you're concentrating down this milk. You're concentrating down the additives and the other things that shouldn't be in milk anyway. Milk, number one, is not really that great for you. But that's a topic for another day. And so I got to looking at these. You've got the artificial sweeteners and loads of other things, copious quantities of sugar that don't go really very well with it either. So the Young Living, their proteins, I'm a pretty big fan of it. That their Pure Protein, I believe it's called, the one from the grass-fed New Zealand cows. That stuff is pretty awesome. It was out for a long time, unfortunately. And another thing, rather than just pounding so much protein constantly every day, yeah, your body does need some protein to rebuild its muscles, and that's what the aminos are used for. But the other thing is, too, to make sure if you balance your body pH, you're not going to have to go through near as much protein. Every protein in the human body is electrically charged. That electrical charge has got to come from somewhere. It's got to continue to build and put all of these things. It doesn't go straight from protein shake, boom, muscle. It's got to go through an entire process. So the more you can support your body pH, the better that can work. And another thing that I'm a really big fan of, and unfortunately it's not a Young Living product, but it's hemp protein. Hemp protein, extremely reasonably priced. It's ludicrously high in magnesium, but it's also a special form of magnesium that is really absorbable by the body. It's also got a methylated cysteine in it. Anybody that's into the epigenetics field and methylation, that's a really important thing I encourage you to look into further. I believe Bruce Lipton has some wonderful things to get you started on it. And the other thing hemp protein's got too, outside of the affordability, it's got the hemp seed oil that gets to come in it, and the fiber that's in hemp protein is one of the greatest detoxifying fibers that you can find pretty much anywhere. So while it's not a Young Living product, I really wish it were. That is one of the best replacements to really look into that one. And the other thing is, too, instead of buying all of these protein shakes that really you're taking 100, 200, 300 grams of protein a day, your body can't use half of it, or it's terribly absorbable, or it's been destroyed by the manufacturing process because these companies, you just try to do it cheap because you're trying to make a cheap protein that gets out there, and you just put something fancy on the label that says, hey, our protein rules. It's like, well, science behind it doesn't say so. So that's some of the other things of why I like to, look into some of the other Young Living products instead. There's the, oh gosh, help me out with the name of it. What's the other protein that they have besides the Pure Protein?
Balance Complete, yeah.
I like the Balance Complete a lot. It's a little on the pricier end, which I'm on a budget still, so the price does become a factor. The Balance Complete also has great fibers, great detox in, but I just suggest look into the protein. Amazon's got it for really cheap for something. It's about $10 a pound. The magnesium that's in it too, also wonderful for brain function, because magnesium is extremely critical to be able to form new memories and create new synapses. So magnesium, almost every single one of us is really deficient in it. So that's another added benefit to it as well.
Great, thank you. And I think maybe all of us can request to Young Living to put hemp protein in some of our products. I'd have to agree with that. That'd be awesome.
That would be fantastic. And then too, the other reason I like to say it is because if you're spending way less on your protein, now you can afford a whole bunch of other oils instead. So it's a win-win.
Right, right. So my next question is talking about, in your book, you talk about failing as part of getting ahead. And I just would like you to talk to our Young Living members or anybody who's trying to lose weight, about, if they've tried something and it doesn't work, what would you say to them?
I'd say failure, there isn't really such thing of failure as long as you learn something from it. And if it didn't work, you learned something there. Be like, okay, then you can start investigating, well, why didn't it work? And failure is going to happen. We're all human. It happens all the time. I backslide like crazy and fail constantly. Like, I am probably the greatest example of how to fail 101 is this guy over here. So don't beat yourself up over it horribly. The other thing too is like, make sure you're not just watching the scale for numbers, because it's not a very good example of what's going on. So just make sure you're gauging, did you really fail? Or was it you just interpreted it as a failure when it really wasn't? It was more of a learning thing. Hey, this didn't work. Or, hey, I gained weight instead. It's like, well, look into it further. Don't just throw it up there as, oh my gosh, I failed. It's like, okay, cool, I failed. You're like, all right, well, what did I learn? What can I do differently? I mean, you've obviously woken up another day, you get another chance at it. So it's not a horrible failure, and don't be afraid to fail. Be like, I mean, embrace it, to be like, okay, I'm maybe gonna fail, and make it a real possibility. Be cool, but that's not a bad thing all the time. Everybody treats it as such a negative connotativity. Oh my gosh, I failed at something. It's what, oh, you didn't fail, you just learned a way that didn't work. That's not a failure, really.
Yeah. Well, I have to agree with that. In anything you do, right? If you're in sports or whatever you're doing, you have to fail in order to learn. And getting down on yourself doesn't help.
I think a quote I heard somewhere is, a master is somebody who's failed more times than a student has even attempted. And so that's how you get better, is you fail at it and learn, get more efficient. I mean, don't get so hung up on the, I failed. Be like, no, what did I learn from this? That's all.
Right, right. And I've heard kind of a theme to what you're saying in all these questions or answers, about taking responsibility to actually understand what you're doing, what you're putting in your body and why it works. And instead of just accepting somebody's diet or somebody's suggestion, you actually look into it and say, why am I doing this? And how can I make this work for me? And being accountable to that. Would you agree?
I certainly agree. There's, I think one of the quotes I put in there, there's no greater mistake, or one of the quotes I put in my book, there's no greater mistake than putting your health in the hands of somebody who bears none of the consequences. So don't just take my word for it. I'll give you some information, but please really look into it, because it's every single one of us. We're the ones that have to really truly understand what's going on. Don't just, oh, cool, here's yet another diet book that came out that says do eat this or don't eat that. Well, no, really take responsibility. You're the one putting this stuff into your body. And I mean, I'm not saying this negatively or anything, but it's like, it's our job as a person to really understand, here's what's going on, here's what I'm putting into it. I want to understand one of the few things you do every day, and that's eat. So anything you eat or drink that you're putting in your body, you do it every day, it would probably benefit you a lot to say, hey, I'm going to look into this. And each and every single person has the power to do it, to be able to learn pretty much anything they want. Just put a little bit of effort forth if you can. I mean, one of the things you could do in the morning, be like, all right, I'm going to use lemon oil today. Open your essential oil desk reference, read about it, read about the chemicals in it. I mean, every single person can say, okay, limonene, well, it's in every one of the citrus oils. Let's do some reading on limonene. There's tons of people out there that have tons of wonderful information. That don't believe any one of them. Read a lot of them. Read as many as you can, so you can make your own informed decision on your health and your happiness and what you're going to do with yourself. Right.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you. You've given us so many great tips and things. I guess my last question is, what can we expect from you in the future? What are you looking at doing in terms of, more books and educating everybody?
Well, I'm hoping to do one on emotions eventually, because after finishing up the last book I wrote, The Essentially Fit, the physical part is absolutely fascinating, and I nowhere near understand everything that's going on with those, because there's so much to learn. But I kind of got to start looking at the emotional aspect of it. I believe at the summit there'll be some people that are talking to it as well, because emotions are one of the most fascinating things on the planet. I mean, they're the one thing that you can't ever measure. Try to measure physically quantify, scientifically, be like, well, what's the mother's love for a child? Well, we can't very well. However, we can't deny that it exists. So these emotions, they're the one thing that we can't truly ever measure, but we can't deny they exist. So it's going to be a really fun one. I also got another one that I'm hoping to focus more on, the endurance and actual muscle building one. But the thing is, unless you can get probably about halfway through the book and really have an understanding of what's going on with my first book, the second book's not going to be all that useful to you, because you've got to be able to make it through some of these levels to be able to be like, okay, I'm going to use this number of oils or these types of oils in this way. Well, if you haven't built up to it and taken the time and the understanding and your body to physically be able to accept to use that many, it's not going to do any good to you, because I also mentioned too that more oils isn't necessarily always better. I have taken way too much grapefruit oil on a single occasion, and I found out that is a terrible idea. Horrible. So more isn't always better. So that's some of the other stuff. And I do have another real interesting book that'll be a ways down the line that'll encompass cymatics and different frequencies and different ways to purify oils. But that's for way further down the road.
Awesome. Where can people find your book?
My book is on Amazon, and it's called Essentially Fit. And fortunately enough, the gods have smiled upon me, and Amazon has discounted it down in its price, and it's also an Amazon Prime item too, so it can get the free shipping. So that I just saw it the other day. I was like, oh, well, that's nice, excellent.
Yeah, that's where I picked it up, and I would have to say, after reading the book, it's really great because it's a step-by-step process, and it's very easy to follow. So I have to commend you for that. It's important for us to, try and take one thing, one step at a time.
Yeah, and I worked really hard on that, because that's what took the longest, was just like, okay, well, I know what's going on here, or at least have a pretty good idea. How do I present this in a way that it's so overwhelmingly so much to learn, but at the same time, that's what makes it so great, is that it gets to be every day there's going to be something new. And so it took a lot of work to be able to get it to be like, all right, how do I present this to people in a way that it's not just, oh, great, here's a medical study, boy, this is going to be a lot of fun to read. It's like, oh, okay, cool, here's what's going on, how it works, and let's make it fun and interesting, because the whole process, it's not meant to be an absolute bore or a drudge on the mind. It's meant to be fun, to be like, oh my gosh, look what I'm able to do with myself if I try a little bit. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is cool. How much better can I feel every day by just making little changes? And so that was kind of the inspiration behind trying to write it and put it out there, to be like, here's this way you can make the most informed decision for yourself, not just me saying, all right, take this oil and that's it. It's like, well, no, here's the reasons we'd be taking it, and here's some of the information about it, and this way you can decide for yourself, oh, hey, this is probably my best option, and this is the one I should maybe look into further.
Great, great. Well, I think I'm done with my questions, and I was hoping to have a few questions from our listeners, but I'm not technically savvy enough to figure that one out yet. So maybe next time we'll do that. But I do want to give you the opportunity to just kind of, tell us what you would like to tell us in terms of, just encouragement or whatever it is that you would like to, message you'd like to send out to everybody.
I guess I hadn't really thought about that, except for each one of us, you do have the power to take control of your life. It's not going to be easy. I mean, if anything, but anything that's worth doing isn't easy. And so make it be a lot of fun. I mean, look at it joyously and encouragingly, to be like, all right, cool, I'm going to start making even a little bit of changes. Watch them snowball onto themselves. I mean, take all of this into your own hands, and it can start there. That if anybody wants one of the simplest ways to do it, and it sounds pretty ludicrous, but one of the best ways to do it, if you really want to take control of doing all this stuff, cancel your cable TV. You would be amazed how much more stuff you can get done when it's not constantly in the background. Buy this, you got to be like that. Oh, here's what you need to do today. Then the news, gosh, you watch that stuff, and it's how long you get to spend your day thinking about the things going on there. So then you're also going to have whatever you were paying for a cable bill. Back when I had cable, I think I was paying like $80 a month for cable. It's like, that's almost my entire ER order. And so, I mean, make any small changes you can, do anything, and really have fun with it. I mean, don't make it be, oh my gosh, I got to lose weight. Be like, no, this is going to be fantastic, because think of how much better I'm going to feel. And I'm going to learn about it for myself, because learning is the one thing nobody can ever take away from you. Once you've learned it, no one can come take that, which is one of the coolest parts. So that's, I guess, just about all I have, is really have fun with it and give it an honest try, because coming from a guy who spent a year furious with the stuff, unless you try, you have no idea what you could be missing out on.
Awesome. Well, I hope that, when you have a new book or some more information to share, we can do this again.
Oh, I'd love to come back another time. Thank you, everybody that did show up and did join and listen. Thanks for taking time out of your day. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have an awesome one.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Adam. And I look forward to seeing all your success in the future and more books and seeing you out there on the Young Living Trail.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right. I'm going to stop the broadcast now.
Sounds good.